Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from the annoying friend from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It does come with an update as well. Titled, Am I the A-hole for not checking with the bride about my allergy thrice? I love a thrice. Hello everyone, English is not my first language, so there may be some errors. Apologies. It was my cousin's wedding a couple of days ago. I'm allergic to peanuts, so 2 days before the wedding, I asked her if there was any dishes served that had peanuts in it, so I could avoid eating that. She told me she had checked with the caterers and informed me on the day of the wedding. Fast forward on the day, I asked her which dishes had the nut in it, and she told me that none of them did. After lunch, I start to feel my throat closing in and my skin itching. Thankfully, I had my epi-pen with me and stabbed it into my thigh. All of this had attracted quite the attention of people that were surrounding me. I was fine, but went to hospital just to be safe. I later got texts from the bride and her siblings about how it was incredibly selfish of me to steal the attention from the bride and a bunch of cuss words. My family thinks it was her who endangered my life and should apologize. She says I should have just sucked it up. I was sure I wasn't in the wrong, but now I'm not so sure. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And as I said, we have an edit on this post and an update as well. And Romeo comes straight in the comments and says, in quotes, she says I should have just sucked it up, and then goes on to say, and died, lol. Yeah, this is 100% her fault, not the a-hole. Time Forgotten says, not the a-hole, but you shouldn't have waited until 2 days before the wedding to notify them of your allergy. What would you have done if the answer was all of them? And if you have such a strong allergic reaction, you really need to be more careful with how you approach eating at events like this. It's up to you to do due diligence on the food as well. You should have asked the waitstaff to check the food that you were being served and not taken the word of a more than likely stressed and busy bride on the day of her wedding. Wolf Goddess says, not the a-hole. Wow, how selfish of you to steal the spotlight with your anaphylactic shock. Maybe next time leave your allergies at home. Jesus, some people. Peanut allergies can be life-threatening. You had no other choice but to use your epi-pen. You informed her of your allergy twice and were given false information. This isn't on you in any way. Little Bear says, not the a-hole. You asked twice and your cousin told you nothing had nuts in it. She obviously didn't check. You didn't have an allergic reaction intentionally, and it's not something you can just suck up, so your family can apologize to you, or you just have to let it go, but in no scenario are you in the wrong. Days says, everyone sucks here. You should have made clear any serious allergy way before 2 days before. You can't expect to rely on the bride's say-so. You need to take responsibility for your own health, but obviously the bride is completely unreasonable calling you attention-seeking for an allergic reaction and her family for their messages. Repulsive Exercise says, everyone sucks here. Your allergies are yours to manage, and you have to understand that 2 days before the wedding is not the time to be checking in about whether or not you'll be able to eat. That being said, no one should have yelled at you for having a medical emergency. Suckage all around. So Opie then edits the post and says, so many people have asked why I waited till the last 2 days to ask her. I did that because my whole family knows I'm allergic to peanuts, and during occasional gatherings, I'll ask, or they'll tell me if something they prepared had peanuts or was prepared in a utensil that had traces of it, i.e. cross-contamination. I didn't want her to change her menu for me, and I would have eaten nothing if there weren't anything. I don't mind because I don't want to inconvenience people just because of me, and have her plan around me. Also, in our culture, we don't really have RSVPs, and especially those that ask about your allergies, lol. I just avoid eating when I go to weddings that aren't my close friends or families. Also, I couldn't possibly ask caterers as the teenage boys and girls of the family serve the food, which was arranged by the caterers. So then OP posts an update, says, so a few people text me asking for an update, and I'll also clarify some of the points people were confused about. Here is the original post. Anyway, onto the actual update. I contacted my aunt, bride's mother, because I couldn't reach her. She blocked me and asked her what really happened, because in the midst of all this, I wasn't really sure if it was the caterer's problem or if she simply didn't check. Some people also told me to sue her if that was the case. Turns out she did, and the food the caterers prepared actually didn't contain peanuts or traces of it. What happened was they ordered desserts from elsewhere, and yeah, she forgot to ask them. When she realized what happened after I went to the hospital, I guess she thought people will blame her. So she went to offense mode. I'm not sure still. Her mum is sort of old-fashioned, so she again asked me if I couldn't have controlled it, lol. I guess that's all for now. My cousin told some of the family members that I'd made a mountain out of a small rash, which is why they went against me, I guess. I'm still confused, to be honest. Some of the stories don't add up. Anyways, so the people who told me that going to the hospital after using an epi-pen is a must, thank you. I truly did not know that, and my doctor told me to go just in case. Also, we don't have RSVPs in our culture. I'm not from the West. This was also my first allergic reaction, as I've been avoiding peanuts since the day I found out I couldn't eat it, and thankfully hadn't consumed it accidentally, so I may have panicked a little and couldn't do the epi-pen thing quietly. This may not be perfect update, but yeah, I'm not mad at my cousin about the allergic reaction, but how she blamed me later on. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story, which does include an update as well, from a deleted account, and says, my girlfriend is transactional. The soy sauce situation. We've been together for 1 year. I cook dinner for us pretty regularly. I'll bring the groceries over to her place and cook, and that's it. When she invites me over and cooks for me, she always asks me to contribute to half of the meal cost or bring half the groceries. One time I brought the groceries over but didn't have soy sauce. She brought some and was like, can you send me $3 for the soy sauce? I refused because I thought it was odd to ask that, like soy sauce is just a basic condiment, and besides, I was already bringing the groceries. She was kind of irked when I refused and didn't really see how it was fair. I've obliged with these requests in the past without too much thought, but suddenly something hit me. I can't help but think she is treating me in a very transactional way. I see where she is coming from. Getting stuff is obviously fair. What do you do when your partner wants to treat your relationship in this 50-50 way? Personally, I can't help but feel it's odd. Now obviously this is a conversation that needs to come up between OP and girlfriend here. Resentment's already creeping into the relationship, which it never ends well if you just let that sort of fester. And for myself, if I was in that situation, I would certainly want to know what's going on. Is there like huge money issues or something along those lines happening here? And I think I'd find myself getting pretty fed up in this situation as well, because it sounds like you're doing all the cooking and you bring the groceries over. So this isn't 50-50 at all. So yeah, I would certainly want to know what's going on here, because I'd get pretty fed up with that pretty quickly, I think. So there was some comments on this one. One comment said, that is odd, especially considering that you don't act the same, as she can say she does it because you do or something. Have you sat and had a conversation with her about it? Does she have money problems or grew up with money problems that she needs to try and hold on to every cent? If you end up living together, how will those finances work if she can't even buy a sauce without turning it into a financial transaction between you? Which OP responds and says, no money problems that I'm aware of. Until recently, her rent was paid by her parents and she's always worked part/full-time and earned more than I. I've noticed that she complains about paying for things that don't bring value to her, fines, repairs, etc. Maybe she wants the most possible money going towards her fun stuff and tries to minimize her expenses. Someone replies to that and says, or do the better thing, find someone who isn't nickel and diming the relationship. This sounds so exhausting. Send me $3 for soy sauce. Imagine spending the rest of your life with that. Next commenter says, seriously, I'd be so baffled over $3 for a condiment. Also, I'd be embarrassed for the person asking for reimbursement. It's just so petty. So OP comes back in to update the post and says, I made a post 2 days ago about the soy sauce situation with my girlfriend and decided to bring it up with her, but we'll get to that. First, I realized that groceries aren't the only thing subject to nickel and diming mindset and lack of generosity. Examples? She counts favors with people, even close family, and that she always expects things in return. However, she doesn't apply this principle in reverse. I notice I've done a lot for her, taking care of her dog, moving furniture, helping her rehearse a job interview, etc, etc. All things I've gladly done and not thought twice about because she is my partner and I love her. The way relationships should be. Yet I actually can't think of one time she has done something to help me. Not one. Once I asked her to help me move furniture. She had nothing on that day but didn't feel like it and stayed home. Anyway, I brought this up with her. I asked, why do you hold back from being generous and selfless? And she replied, because no one ever does anything for me. I brought up the times I have helped her and she changed to, well, until you came along, no one did anything for me. I then asked, how would you describe the ways you show me love and affection? And she got annoyed that I asked that, but she couldn't come up with a single thing, except for attacking me. She proceeded to say, I buy you things, but you hate them. I try and do things for you, but you don't want me to. These things are both completely untrue. For clarification, the past year she has brought me 2 presents and I love and use them both, and she is definitely aware of that. She conveniently finds ways to make herself the victim and dodge responsibility. I told her she needs to fix this and also start showing some generosity in the relationship or I'm out. Anyway, time passed and she messaged me this morning saying she is sorry I feel this way. She said she wants to improve, then she asked, do you want to make it work? Yet she hasn't told me how it is precisely that she plans on making it work. Going to a therapist, plan to reciprocate the love back, those kind of things. I have a feeling that making it work is going to require a god-awful amount of effort and probably lead to stress and emotional pain for both of us. I don't know if I can go through that, but of course, there's the possibility that we both come out of it stronger. Now, a line jumped out to me on this one, and it may be just the way OP written it, but when OP said she's saying she's sorry that OP feels this way, not sorry for how she's been acting or anything like that, she's just sorry that OP feels this way. And we do have another little update on this one as well. But one commenter said on that one, said, I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. Another commenter said, she's self-absorbed and immature. Can she change? I suppose, but she has to number 1, see her behavior as being an issue, and number 2, want to change. And since she treats everyone in her life this way, and from your last post up until recently, her parents paid her rent, yet per her, do nothing for her, I wouldn't hold my breath. So OP's next little update says, I appreciate all the responses to this post. It helps so much to write to a group of strangers who are completely detached from the situation. Girlfriend and I are no longer together. I was going to respond this to a comment saying to just end it and tell her I don't want to put in the work. I thought I'd leave it here instead. By telling her I don't want to make it work, it would have, in her mind, absolved her of any responsibility for ending the relationship. She could feel like the victim, again, because I didn't want to put in the effort. I instead told her she has deeply rooted character flaws, and that the way she treated me is a form of gaslighting. It was hard to say that. I basically broke down in her arms. She broke down too. She can't even recognize what the issue is, so I don't think she can change. And I have too much on my plate right now to walk her through all of this. She actually understood that and apologized. Properly. It's so frustrating. I still love everything else about her, and at times I saw us having a life together. But she still doesn't even know what she's doing. She chalked it up to us thinking differently. If she had just said, I'm sorry for treating you like that, it was so wrong, I will do everything I can to change, I would have been ecstatic, and it would have probably saved the relationship. And the cheek of saying that no one does anything for you, yet her parents were paying her own rent. I wonder if there ever will be that one day of realization where she sits there and goes, shit, people have done a lot for me, you know? But I guess we'll never know that one. But what do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you know someone similar in your life. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have another story. And our next story comes from a deleted user who says, am I the a-hole for telling my parents the truth about my stepsister's fiance, since they now won't pay for her wedding? I, 28 female, have a stepsister, Jen, 29 female. Our parents got together when we were teenagers and Jen and I never clicked. I have nothing against her, we just aren't close. From the ages of 22 to 26, I worked at my stepdad's company, and Jen worked there too, and still does. While working there, I became friendly with a colleague, Pete. Everyone in the office would joke about Pete having a crush on me, but I never saw him like that and he never said anything, so I didn't pay much attention to the possibility. However, when I started dating my now husband, things got a bit awkward with Pete, and I quit my job and Pete and I didn't really stay in contact, but we followed each other on social media. It was a few months later that I saw on Pete's social media that he had started seeing Jen. Pete and Jen got engaged last year, and since, my stepdad has agreed to pay for the wedding. A few weeks ago, an old colleague got married, so me, Jen, Pete, and my parents were all at the wedding. Pete was a little overly friendly at the reception, which I put down to alcohol. Later in the evening though, I was outside getting some air and Pete came out and basically propositioned me. I made it clear I was extremely uncomfortable and went back inside. The next day, I called Jen and told her everything. She accused me of trying to ruin her relationship and said I shouldn't have made the whole situation worse by telling her dad, since I'd already done enough to sabotage her relationships. I agreed because I didn't feel I had any right to continue being a spanner in the works. A week ago, I was Skyping my parents and they were talking about Jen's wedding. They were talking about Pete and my face must have changed because they immediately asked if something was wrong. I insisted it was nothing, but it turned out they'd seen Pete follow me out of the wedding and had their own theories about what he'd done to upset me, all of which were worse than what actually happened. After 20 minutes of them thinking the worst, I told them the truth. I begged them not to do anything about it, since Jen and Pete worked it out, but my stepdad was livid. He called Jen and they had a huge fight, and he refused to pay for the wedding or even attend. Jen has been calling and texting and posting on social media about what a horrible person I am for ruining her wedding. And I've had messages from her friends telling me how awful it was for me to tell our parents after she asked me not to, and saying how I've basically ruined Pete's career, etc. I've tried explaining that letting them continue assuming would have led to worse consequences, but apparently I should have just been able to hide the whole thing somehow. My friends say I did nothing wrong, but my stepdad is now not speaking to Jen. The whole wedding has been cancelled because of me. So I do feel guilty. Am I the a-hole? And we're going to start in the comments with one awareness3671 and says not the a-hole. The wedding has not been cancelled because of you. It's cancelled because of Pete. I doubt this is the first time Pete did this to a woman, and that's why your parents thought the worst of what happened. This was probably the last straw. Normal Blue Jay says not the a-hole. It was never your intention to reveal until your parents somehow got it out of you. And it is better that they cancel the wedding because your sister deserves better, even though she can't see it now. Cricket says not the a-hole. How did Pete think this was going to end? If he really believed that you would take him up on his offer, he was blowing his career up anyway, as well as his relationship. Jen's also the a-hole for blaming you in this matter, when she should have placed all the blame on Pete. Slenderman, as my dad says, the wedding was cancelled because of Pete. Pete, who got engaged to the daughter of the owner of the company he works for, and then he hit on the married stepdaughter of that owner. They also know Pete followed you out and that you were upset. They assume worse than what happened. Jen doesn't get to order you to not tell your own mother an experience that happened to you. I understand you also told your stepdad, but it's not like your mother wasn't going to do that. Not the a-hole. MB Mink says, not the a-hole. You did nothing wrong. You didn't tell them. You answered the questions they already had. They wouldn't have asked if they didn't already suspect something, which they very obviously did. Pete ruined his own wedding. He ruined his own career. Jen is mad at the wrong person. Snarf says, and quotes, they'd seen Pete follow me out of the wedding and had their own theories about what he'd done to upset me, all of which were worse than what actually happened. And goes on to say, you clarified the situation for your parents who both imagined a far worse situation. The confirmation Pete would step out on your stepsister resulted in the funds withdrawn from the wedding. But the core issue in that statement is Pete is looking to have sex with someone else other than his fiancée, and worse, with his stepsister. It sounds like your stepsister is not interested in holding him accountable for his actions. She can try to shift blame to you, but OP, you are not the a-hole. And one more comment from Bad Karma M5 who says not the a-hole. Apparently your sister doesn't understand the Streisand effect. She doesn't want you talking about what happened between you and Pete, but she's digging herself a hole on social media. By badmouthing you on social media in front of all your friends, family and co-workers, she's attracting curiosity. Eventually curious people are going to find out and Pete is going to be thrown under the bus. Keep out of her self-destructive behavior. Ignore her, block her, get a Ring camera at your front door. Let her dig her own grave. And obviously, I don't blame OP for the situation at all. I think it's all Pete's fault. Of course it is. And also Jen blaming you as well is totally not on. But I sort of do wonder to myself, is Jen just lashing out at the moment because she can literally see her life falling apart in front of her and can't face that fact? Again, I'm not justifying her behavior and blaming OP and something like that. I'm just trying to get into the head of what's going on. You've just been told your fiancé has propositioned someone else. And instead of confronting that fact, you lash out at the person who told you. Is she going to continue to, defend Pete in this? Or is she going to realize, shit, what OP told me is the truth and I need to reevaluate what's going on here? I think it'd be incredibly sad for Jen at some point when she does eventually realize the truth and what's going on here. But of course, Opie is not to blame in this situation at all. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below if you have a moment of your time, of course. And just a huge thank you for your support towards the channel, your support toward my social medias, Twitter and stuff, sharing your crochet projects and whatever projects you're up to. I absolutely love to see them as well. Thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.